Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 3 of our TCW series in TEW 2020. This is Total Wrestling for January week 2, and I hope you guys are enjoying the series thus far. A couple episodes in, we've gotten some great feedback, and so I am glad that you guys are having a lot of fun with this. Of course, I am too, just from a booking standpoint. I said that before. It is just a very fun experience to book something outside of the real world mods. I enjoy them as always, but this is something different, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, going through this sort of universe in the C-verse and really just kind of getting into these characters in TCW. So let's jump in to a very important edition of Total Wrestling. As we start with the pre-show, we actually do have a match on the pre-show this time, and what I usually do with the pre-show, everybody kind of does it a little differently, but if you watch the WWE and AEW saves, WCW one too, I just like to sort of just check out chemistry. I like to try some different chemistry ideas with people who I would put on the pre-show. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. So Troy Tornado gets the win over Elliot Thomas. Star Maker does it 49. So again, no chemistry. That's kind of what I like to do, is just play around to see what kind of chemistry may be there between certain people who aren't going to factor into the main card. And so, yeah, we just kind of had this as an idea, and it did not work. So I could see that because I think Thomas is a high flyer. Tornado's not. So, I mean, it's just, it is one of those things that we like to experiment with. So not much more to this one other than Troy Tornado getting the win over Elliot Thomas. All right, we start the show off with something that we promised last week, and we are in here in St. Louis, Missouri, not New Orleans, Louisiana, because one person refused to wrestle in New Orleans, Louisiana last week, and that was Freddie Huggins. And I'm going to say something right now. If I'd have known better for what I was going to do angle-wise in the show, I would have actually put this show last week in St. Louis. I would have put this particular show in New Orleans, but that we will talk about a little bit later on. So Freddie Huggins is out here, and we're going to start the show off with the Freddie Huggins Open Challenge. So he said last week he was issuing an open challenge, but he wasn't going to do it in New Orleans because he wasn't going to wrestle in a city like New Orleans. But apparently he's fine to wrestle in St. Louis. So Kyle Rhodes in the ring, and Freddie Huggins says, "Rhodes, I'm ready for my opponent. Send him on out. I'm ready to show off what I got here tonight." So, Freddie Huggins kind of playing this up. The crowd still booing Freddie as always. Laura Catherine Huggins just going off on the crowd. The overprotective sister continues her thing. So this gets to 70. And who's going to come out and accept this open challenge from Freddie Huggins? It is going to be, well, there's two people coming out. It is Aaron Andrews, our TCW World Heavyweight Champion, makes his way out. But with him is T-Bone Bright. And that is when Freddie Huggins is starting to get excited, saying, "I knew it. I knew if there was anybody that was going to accept my open challenge, it would be the champ, because that's where I should be starting, is at the top." And so Freddie Huggins really thinking, he's about to become the TCW World Heavyweight Champion here. Aaron Andrews has, accepted his challenge. And so that's when Andrews grabs the mic and says, "I already have a match tonight against Matt Hocking, someone you know very well," which, full disclosure, if we want to go a little behind the scenes here, Matt Hocking is the boyfriend of Laura Catherine Huggins. So if you're wondering how we're going to kind of play into this a little bit, that's at least one little, backstage tidbit that, Andrews is not going to bring up because we're pushing the kayfabe style here, but that is something worth noting if you're looking at it from just a character standpoint and curious about that kind of thing. So Andrew says he already have a match, but he's got a friend that is ready to wrestle, and he hasn't wrestled in a few weeks. He's been out with an injury. We're kind of pushing that in kayfabe, that T-Bone has been out with an injury, but T-Bone is back, and T-Bone is accepting the challenge of Freddie Huggins. So Huggins, a little disappointed. He's going off about having to wrestle a guy named T-Bone, but ultimately it is T-Bone versus Freddie here in our accepted open challenge. So Aaron Andrews coming out, a little bit of a mouthpiece here for T-Bone, if you will. And we're also aligning some baby faces, which we've done in the previous episode, but you'll start to understand why we are aligning some baby faces here together. It'll all make sense probably by the end of this episode. So 75 for this one. T-Bone underwhelming, but hey, we got to start pushing up some of these younger talents that have potential, and so pairing him here with Aaron Andrews was kind of the goal. And can T-Bone pull off the upset against Freddie Huggins here? This would be a big upset, given where these two are. He does, because it is T-Bone getting the upset win. We're going to kind of push it as that over Freddie Huggins, 751. The T-Bone Lariat does it. So Freddie's, in-ring performance better than T-Bone's. I'm not surprised by that, but we're fine with the 68 for this one. We did keep Freddie strong in this one. And again, it's kind of picking and choosing when to do that, when not to do it. But I do need to keep Freddie strong for something in particular. So we did keep that. May not be as big of a boost for T-Bone, but don't worry. That's kind of something that we have in the works. And clearly, if I have him beating Freddie here, you know that there are some things in the works there. But really, the only penalty is just getting T-Bone for inconsistency. So, yeah, we're kind of pushing this as, Freddie just getting caught off guard by T-Bone. Wasn't expecting maybe this is the challenger. T-Bone's been out with the injury, but ultimately the up-and-coming, perhaps next breakout star, T-Bone Bright, getting the win over Freddie Huggins here. So we started off with the baby faces on a roll here to start off this show. So let's get to 68. Now, after the commercial, we come to the back, and we have all the baby faces in the locker room. It's the kayfabe era. Baby faces in one locker room, heels in the other. So we've got the baby faces back here. And so we have Aaron Andrews. We have Sammy Box back here. Bart Biggins is there. Benny Benson, Flying Jimmy Fox. They're all back here in the locker room. And so they're kind of all, patting T-Bone on the back. He just got this big win. So they're basically congratulating him. This gets a 71. Sammy, poor improvising dialogue. We've had that note before. Sammy doesn't want to be scripted. He tells us that every time. So we just don't script him. So basically, this is just a big congratulations. You've got all the baby faces back here in the locker room, and they're really just, all in on T-Bone here, getting a big win over Freddie Huggins. So Box promising that he's going to give a concert later on. And so once again, they were kind of pushing at the rock star Sammy Box. He's going to give another concert, and he says he's going to play a little bit later on for the rest of the locker room after his match. So kind of pushing that here as we move forward. So 71 for this segment. All right, this one, it's been a while since I've had a match where a guy has an 11 as their in-ring performance. But luckily, it's carried by Joshua Taylor, who's back in action here after losing that match to Aaron Andrews at Psycho Circus, what we're pushing kind of in the TCW world here. 49, so not a great match, but this is just basically a squash to get Joshua Taylor back in action after he was, he didn't wrestle last week. Joey Philly, we joked it's Roman Reigns, but, in all honesty, he is someone from MAW, and I know we had some fun in the comments. I think it was Mario who had mentioned that we should put together a match, like having a Joshua Taylor against a Joey Philly, to kind of really push the younger guy more and to be able to give him more opportunities, get booked more, those kind of things. Well, it's funny because the day before, actually, he had suggested that. I had actually put this into my booking of the episode. I was like, wow, there you go. Great minds think alike. Isn't that right, Mario? So Joshua Taylor gets the win here. Look, again, I was not expecting a lot here. Joey Philly with an 11 on the in-ring performance, playing WWE and AEW. Been a while since I've seen one of those. But still, we do have to give these younger guys, and you guys know too, if you watch the WWE, say specifically, there are a lot of times where I bring up NXT stars who don't have a lot of experience, and I put them on Raw or SmackDown against top talent just to kind of grow the skills, more opportunity, get a little popularity boost perhaps, like all those kind of things. So yeah, that is something we've always kind of focused on in the other save. So we will use that a bit here, knowing we have some people in MAW that we can use, as the younger talent to build up. So Taylor gets the win, gets back on track here. More to come from him in the coming weeks. So, all right, now we get another match afterwards, and we go into the next match. And it's worth noting in this match, Kyle Rhodes lets us know that the board of directors for TCW has made it clear that everyone's banned from ringside here. So there's no Center Society out. Tana's not allowed to come to the ring with Mighty Mo. Everyone banned from ringside except for Mighty Mo and Nick Booth, which this comes off the heels of the tag team match we had last week, where the intentional disqualification for the Center Society, they ganged up on Mighty Mo and Tana using the numbers advantage, but it was kind of Mo and Booth were the ones that factored into the decision. So we have them go one-on-one here, and it is Mighty Mo, as you would expect, getting the win over Nick Booth. No one ringside to interfere, so in a one-on-one setting, Mo's going to get the win every time. 741, the plunging spine buster. That's just a great finisher name for Mighty Mo here. 66, Mo with some good work in the ring. We advanced to Where's the Beef storyline. And so, yeah, I'll take this because, as we've said, Nick Booth's popularity, is not a lot. And, skill-wise, he's another young talent. So putting him in the ring with Mighty Mo, try to work out some skills here, get some things going. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. We did make this a wild brawl, too, because we have to have one of those on every show, and it just made sense to do it for this match. So 66 for the match. Afterwards, well, everyone's not banned from the ring after the match. So afterwards here, we get Kyle Rhodes coming in. Mighty Mo calls him into the ring. And that is when Mo, brings out Tana. And, of course, here comes the Center Society. The match is over, so they're not banned from ringside anymore. So we get Eddie Peake, Killer Shark, Titan all coming out. And that is when, Rhodes is in the ring. And that's when Mighty Mo officially issues the challenge to the Center Society, to Killer Shark and Titan for the Tag Team Championships at Malice in Wonderland here in a couple weeks. So that is the challenge issued, and Eddie Peake, is agreeing to this. He's saying, all right, we'll do this. Remember, they tried to pull the numbers advantage, and that's when Peake reminds Mighty Mo and Tana that they still have the advantage. It's still 4 against 2, but they do accept the tag team title match for Malice in Wonderland. So it will be Mo and Tana teaming up to challenge our champions, Killer Shark and Titan, at Malice in Wonderland. So 70 here for this one. Tana struggles going off script, but it's all good. So there you go. There's one match that's officially set, and as you'll see, you're going to see what direction we're going for some of these matches, but this will not be the Malice in Wonderland we will probably have a year from now, because we only have 4 weeks to build this up, so I can't announce everything, 1 week in, 2 weeks in. A lot of stuff will start to get announced next week for that show in particular. So 70 for this one. All right, now we get to another big-time match here. And this was set up last week, too. As we remember, we had the 2 singles matches between Jay Cord and Flying Jimmy Fox. We had Greg Gage, Benny Benson. Actually, I think it was in reverse, wasn't it? It was Jay Cord and Benny Benson, the main event. We had Greg Gage defending the TV title against Flying Jimmy Fox. But they team up here. And so in this one, what we have is Cord getting the win over Fox in this one. So 14-23. We give these guys some time, and for good reason, because we see the in-ring work from Greg Gage and Jay Cord specifically. But again, I'm fine with Fox and Benson. They're a nice little group to have as baby faces, kind of in this upper tier type range. So 79 for the match. Good stuff here overall. And so here's how we're playing it up. So Jay Cord gets the pin on Flying Jimmy Fox, but these two kind of don't factor into things, because we have Benny Benson and Greg Gage kind of fighting each other. They're going all around ringside, fighting around the aisleway, all of this stuff. So they're kind of out of the picture here, as they're just fighting all over the place. We have officials trying to break these two up, as, again, part of the storyline. You guys kind of know where this is headed with these two. But we have these two kind of fighting their way off. Jay Cord's heading out of there. So this gets a 79 for a match. Good stuff. And that's when afterwards, Sammy Bach coming to the ring for his match, which is going to be coming up next against Maverick. And so we had the taunting again. And remember last week, Jay Cord sort of cut off Sammy Bach's encore performance that he was trying to have for the fans. And so this time around, it's Bach making his entrance. And so these two start taunting at each other. We have some officials step in to sort of keep them separate. So we're kind of, moving forward some storyline stuff here with these two, just continuing to go back and forth with Jay Cord and Sammy Bach. So the taunting continues from these two, so gets an 85. Good stuff there as we head into the match I mentioned, Sammy Bach against Maverick, and it is Sammy getting the win in 10-26. The Bach on your back, yet again, one of my favorite finisher names here for anyone in TCW. 71, Bach gets a 72 as an in-ring performance. We'll take that. Maverick, I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't necessarily have a lot of plans for him at the moment, but it's a nice kind of heel to have in, an upper tier role that can take some losses at times. So it's not a bad thing to have. And I guess we look at the dirt sheet, Bach still getting penalized for declining physical ability, but we kind of have to lean in on Sammy Bach right now because he is one of our top baby faces, and he's just got a good, well-rounded skill, especially from the entertainment and using him in angles and those kind of things. He's playing a big role, as you can see, a couple episodes in to our save. So that's where we get to here, and we go to commercial. And we go back to the locker room yet again, because remember, Sammy promised earlier, after his match, he was going to hand out, a nice little concert. So we are back in the babyface locker room here. We see all the good guys in there. And we see Sammy Bach, T-Bone's there, still, doing well from his win. We see Benson and Fox, who've made their way back to the locker room. They're being talked to by Fortune and Divine and the Fonz here. they're sort of trying to, kind of cheer them up a little bit, and these guys are still pissed off about what happened with Cord and Gage. So we kind of got that playing up sort of in the background here. Box getting ready to give the concert to the locker room, and that, of course, T-Bone standing around all these other guys. That's when Aaron Andrews is kind of saying, Sammy, I'm sorry I have to miss this, but I gotta head to the ring for the match. So the video camera's back in the back here, looking at Sammy Bach about to hand out a free concert to his peers in the locker room. So Andrews is heading to the ring for our main event, and it is going to be Aaron Andrews taking on Matt Hocking in our main event, as we said a little bit earlier on. So this gets to 75. The Fonz underperforms a little bit. That's okay. Maybe we'll get a little duet between Sammy Bach and the Fonz here. If so, it's going to be on free television. Someone should probably have to pay for that. That's how good it should be. So we'll see. But we head to the main event. Andrews versus Matt Hocking. This is a non-title match here. But, hey, if Matt Hocking gets the win, we know he's in line probably for a World Heavyweight Championship match against Aaron Andrews. Does he get the win? Well, no, he doesn't. The suspense is over. Aaron Andrews gets the win. They go about 15 minutes here for this one. Flying body press in this. So it gets to 78, but you see the note here, as we sort of played up earlier on. Freddie Huggins didn't like being sort of talked down to by Aaron Andrews. Thought he was getting a World Heavyweight Championship match earlier. Did not happen. Huggins tries to come in and, factor into this match, but he accidentally hits Hocking. That gets the crowd going wild. Gives Andrews the opportunity to hit the flying body press onto Hocking for the win. So Aaron, 88 for an in-ring performance here. Hocking, a 63. Not bad stuff there. But overall, I'm fine with this. Again, I know not every match is going to hit our 80 type range, especially our television matches. Some of those are just going to be what they are, right? They're going to be probably around the 80-ish or lower range, which is fine. We're building up for the big matches at the big shows. So, that's kind of what we're going for. If we look at this, no penalties here. So, good stuff here from Andrews and Hocking. So, that's not all, because after the match, we have a situation. And so, afterwards, we get Freddie Huggins and Matt Hocking, kind of bickering back and forth with each other. Of course, Huggins tries to interfere, costs Hocking the match. And so that leaves Aaron Andrews in the ring. Well, there's someone we've not seen on this show yet, and of course he's going to be here. Out comes part of the Syndicate. Wolf Hawkins, Doc Hammond, Chris Flynn. What do? They come out to the aisle, and they stand in the aisleway just like they did to finish off last week's episode of Total Wrestling. They didn't do anything last week. We had the whole crew out here. They were standing in the aisle as Aaron Andrews had the promo with Kyle Rhodes after he made the save, in the main event, after the J. Cord, Benny Benson main event. But Hawkins, Hammond, and Flynn are there. Huggins and Hocking just kind of walk by him because they're out of the picture, and that leaves Andrews in the ring, once again looking out and seeing Wolf Hawkins, Doc Hammond, and Chris Flynn. Except this time, we start to see Wolf Hawkins remove his jacket, and Doc Hammond does the same. Chris Flynn does the same. So these guys aren't just standing and watching anymore. They are now making their way to the ring. Aaron Andrews all by himself. Naturally, it's a 3-on-1 situation. We've seen Aaron Andrews make the save for Benson and Fox. Sammy Bach's in the picture with Andrews. Kind of, those two guys are on the same page. Andrews and T-Bone, we saw that earlier on. A lot of help out there for our babyface, right? 87 for this segment. And that is when we all of a sudden hear a furious and panicked Kyle Rhodes over the broadcast here tell us that, folks, the video cameras are in the locker room area, and we are very disturbed by what we're hearing is going on right now back in this locker room area. And so that's when we get the video cutting back to the locker room. Standing outside the locker room area is Eddie Chandler and Nate Johnson, the other members of the Syndicate, and they have officially used a huge chain to lock the baby faces into their locker room, and we can hear Sammy Bach sort of back there. Apparently, somehow they've been alerted to what is going on. They hear that they're being locked in, and Bach's trying to figure out what's going on. We hear everyone else in the background, T-Bone, we hear Benson. All these guys are in the background, sort of like, banging on the door, trying to figure out what's going on here. But these two guys have completely chained this thing up. They're locking them in, And then we see Chandler and Johnson head off as Bach and everyone are trying to get out of the locker room, but they can't do it. And so this gets an 81 for the segment. I don't care about any of this. We get back to the ring, and that is when the Syndicate are starting to take it out on Aaron Andrews, and they start to beat down Aaron Andrews here. Andrews just cannot fight all three of these guys off. So Wolf's going at him, Hammond's going at him, Flynn's going at him, and this is just, nonstop. These guys are just beating down Aaron Andrews, really pushing the by any means necessary here. And as this is going on, we're hearing Kyle Rhodes on commentary saying, folks, we've got the maintenance team back in the back. I'm hearing that they're trying to get this door open. So are the babyfaces ever going to make their way out here? Is it going to happen? This is a, sort of fast and furious thing. The fans are just looking in the back. They're yelling for someone to come out and help Aaron Andrews, but it's not happening. They continue to take him out, and then that is when Wolf grabs the TCW World Heavyweight Championship that was right there with Aaron Andrews, and he just grabs the title belt, and he nails Aaron Andrews right in the face. And we've got blood coming out now. This is Southern wrestling here. This guy's he's got to bleed, right? You got to beat down like this. He's got to bleed. So Hawkins nails him with a championship, and then Hammond and Flynn stand him up again, and Hawkins hits Andrews yet again with the title. Just furious sort of shots here with the TCW World Heavyweight Championship. We see the blood all over the title belt at this point, and that is when Wolf just kind of sits the title down on Aaron Andrews, and he's just leaning over him, and Wolf, for good measure, just hits him right in the face again. So that is what we have. And then, 96 for the segment here, we hear Kyle Rhodes on commentary ecstatic as he said, folks, the locker room has been open, but we're out of TV time. What's going to happen? We don't know until next week, because this gets a 96, and that is how we go off the air for this edition of Total Wrestling, a beatdown from the Syndicate on our World Heavyweight Champion. But the babyfaces locker room was eventually open. What happened afterwards? You'll have to find out next week on Total Wrestling. So that is how we wrap up the show. So I mentioned earlier, why would I would have wanted to flip this from St. Louis to New Orleans and kind of do it vice versa. So this kind of angle was a little bit of a throwback to, if you guys remember, WCW Clash of Champions. It was Ragin' Cajun. This was back in 1989. I don't know why I just remember this. But, so 1989, I think it was the Varsity Club, and someone can correct me if I was wrong. I know it was kind of a match that was scheduled, and it's just one of those things where I remember the visual where I think it was Sting, the Junkyard Dog, and somebody else were locked in the locker room. They had a scheduled match, but it was Kevin Sullivan, I think, that locked him in this locker room. And so we had the cameras continually cutting back to the locker room and seeing these guys locked in. They couldn't get out, to kind of get to their match or make the save for the baby faces, whatever the setup was. So that's what I used here as sort of a spin on that. For some reason, I just thought that would be pretty enjoyable to do. And so that's how we kind of use a little classic angle, not the exact same angle, but a form of it here to go with this, as the baby faces have made their escape, but we don't know what's going to happen here as we go off the air on Total Wrestling. But Hawkins, Hammond, Flynn, the Syndicate, they were on a mission, and they teased it last week, but this week they carried it out. And so that is how we wrap up this episode. And 84 for this edition of Total Wrestling. We increase our popularity in 17 regions. Some good matches across the board. A lot of good angles here, I think, to kind of, push our storylines forward for sure. And then, of course, our main angle, just the beatdown of the Syndicate. And that is how we finish up. We'll have to see what happens with Andrews, what happened with the baby faces, what happened with the heels. We will perhaps get some footage next week to open up Total Wrestling. So, 84, let's see what we get to before we wrap up. All right, so that was Total Wrestling. Let's see here. We got excellent show. We struck gold. It's always what we want. SWF notes, Brandon James is turning babyface. We've got Adam Smasher here turning babyface. SWF, let's see what they did. So they got a pretty good show. They didn't strike gold like we did, but so let's see what they did. A 77 for their show, so we did better. From a show rating standpoint, we will look at the actual viewership in just a second. Someone had mentioned that in the comments, and that was a good idea. I forgot to put that up on the last episode. But main events here, yeah. So, I mean, look, they had some good matches on the card, but we ultimately do well with what we have here. So, yeah, we had a pretty good show compared to that. I'm trying to see if there's anything else notable here. I don't really see anything else on that. I did check the email before I did this, but like drug testing fees, 2.70 rating, so we get, that's nice viewership there. Dating, Chris Flynn and Jasmine Saunders here. Wow, I can't believe Jasmine would want to date a guy like Chris Flynn after what she just saw in the main event of our Total Wrestling and the aftermath. That's just ridiculous. We're going to have to take her off commentary now because of that. Come on, you can't align yourself with someone like Chris Flynn out there beating up on the babyface, drawing blood. Not ideal for that. But in all honesty, let's look at the broadcasting here. We will look at the ratings center for last night's viewership. So as you see here, we got an 84. The SWF got a 77 viewership-wise. We're only down about 3,000 viewers here. A little less, I guess. Yeah, so we're about 2.5 or 2,500 viewers or so less. So that's interesting to note there as you look at it on that. So very, very interesting, I think, just to see our ratings and all of that from last night's shows. And so, yeah, I mean, it is very interesting to kind of see what we had there. And again, kind of look at the overall rating. We're not that far behind SWF just with that rating for that show. So there you go. That was a very, fun edition, I thought, of Total Wrestling, highlighted by our main event angle, which kind of draws on a past angle in wrestling history. But we probably have some of that just because I do like the old school nature of kind of some old angles and kind of putting our own spin on them and those kind of things. I know we've talked about that in some of the comments before too. Just kind of really leaning into the product. There you go. That is kind of where we are. I mean, look, size-wise and everything, I think we've actually moved up one here. Yes, we started as a 72. So the first couple episodes, we get a jump up to one in terms of this. I guess Canada-wise, if we track our progress in Canada, so we started at 54. So, so we jumped up a little bit, Quebec, Ontario. But, I mean, that's what we want. We want to be heading in the right direction, increasing our popularity, selling tickets, selling merch, all that kind of stuff. And if you're new again to the channel, at the end of the month, after our big pay-per-view, or in some months we may not have a big pay-per-view, I do sort of a state of the company. So we'll do those. Week 1 February will be a state of episode that we'll do, kind of looking at all the details, all the company details, our size, our finances, all that. So rather than do it just in each episode, we'll do that in kind of one episode at the end of the month. That's kind of how we do it on the other saves, and you guys seem to enjoy that style. So we'll do that there. But again, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Appreciate the great feedback as always. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And check out all the other stuff on the channel, WWE, AEW, Exploring the Seaverse, and much more to come as well. So appreciate you guys as always. And on the next episode of our TCW series, it will be Total Wrestling for January Week 3.